In July 1876, the United States was throwing itself a massive party. On the East Coast, the Centennial exhibition was in full swing, celebrating a century of both independence and industrial progress. But miles away on the western frontier, a very different reality was unfolding. Word arrived via the steamboat Far West. General George Armstrong Custer and 5 companies of the 7th Cavalry had been completely wiped out at the Battle of the Little Bighorn by a combined force of Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors. Up to this point, Eastern audiences had consumed the West as a romantic adventure, a pulp fiction landscape of brave pioneers and noble combat. The sheer scale and graphic nature of this defeat broke that illusion, horrifying a public entirely insulated from the realities of plains warfare. The destruction of the 7th Cavalry left a massive cultural vacuum. A traumatized nation, its pride bruised right in the middle of its 100th birthday, desperately needed a clear, heroic victory to make sense of the loss. Enter William F. Cody. By 1876, Buffalo Bill was already a household name. He had earned legitimate credentials as a frontier scout and buffalo hunter, but that summer he was earning his living on the stage, performing in highly lucrative melodramas for Eastern theater-goers. When the news of Little Bighorn broke, Cody abruptly canceled his theatrical tour. He packed his bags and headed straight back to the plains to join the 5th Cavalry. But he didn't pack a standard-issue blue Army uniform. Instead, Cody brought his stage wardrobe. Among his gear was a custom-made black velvet Mexican vaquero costume, detailed with scarlet trim and bright silver buttons. Picture the dissonance here. Out on the arid, blindingly bright, dust-choked Nebraska plains, a military scout is riding just ahead of the cavalry, dressed in an immaculate dark velvet theater outfit. Before he even fired a single shot in the campaign, Cody had already begun to overwrite the physical, dirty reality of the Indian Wars with the stylized aesthetics of the stage. 3 weeks after Little Bighorn, the 5th Cavalry was patrolling the Nebraska border, part of a campaign to force tribes back onto reservations after a gold rush in the Black Hills had collapsed the standing 1851 Treaty of Fort Laramie. At dawn on July 17th, they intercepted a band of Cheyenne warriors at Warbonnet Creek. Among the Cheyenne was a young warrior named Hay-o-wei, or Yellow Hair. He carried this name not because of his own hair, but because he possessed a blonde scalp taken in a previous battle. In the dim morning light, Cody, still wearing his velvet vaquero suit, spotted Yellow Hair. The 2 riders broke away from the main skirmish and charged directly at one another across the dry creek bed. It was over in seconds. Cody fired his Springfield carbine, bringing down Yellow Hair's horse. The skirmish instantly shifted from a mounted charge to lethal close-quarters combat on the ground, ending with Cody firing a fatal shot. In roughly 15 seconds, the broken treaties and the messy history of land displacement were collapsed into a single visible point, a dramatic one-on-one duel tailored for a spectator audience. Immediately after the fatal shot, Cody made a highly calculated move. He walked over to Yellow Hair's body, removed the warrior's eagle feather warbonnet, and took his scalp. As the rest of the 5th Cavalry rode up to the scene, Cody stood over the body and transformed the report of a kill into a choreographed performance, holding the bloody artifacts high in the air for the arriving troops. According to the men present, he shouted a single memorable line, "The first scalp for Custer." Right there on the battlefield, Cody stepped seamlessly into the role of a PR agent. He manufactured the exact headline and the exact cathartic revenge that a traumatized American public was waiting for. Just a few months later, in the fall of 1876, the setting shifted. We move from the Western Plains to the gas-lit interior of an East Coast theater. Cody was back on stage in a new melodrama titled Buffalo Bill's First Scalp for Custer. He wasted absolutely no time capitalizing on the summer's bloodshed. But this performance crossed a new line. Cody wore the exact same black velvet vaquero suit he had worn during the actual kill. Even more unsettling were his stage props. Night after night, Cody used the physical scalp and the eagle feather warbonnet taken from Yellow Hair's body to reenact the death for cheering crowds. By parading the literal, physical artifacts of a man's death as theatrical props, Cody erased the boundary between historical truth and commercial entertainment. This flowchart illustrates how genuine, tangible objects anchored the illusion. Seeing real artifacts, audiences believed Cody's scripted play was accurate history. The moral complexity of the Indian Wars, the broken treaties, the starvation, faded out, replaced by a simplistic revenge narrative where the hero always won. Buffalo Bill's performances defined the imagery of the frontier for generations. He left the public with the vivid memory of the theater, while the messy history behind the artifacts began to fade.